of pharmacists, and that hope that you will be there for the next time as well, if you like. So just very difficult to have 3 hours on PSUR because I had 500 slides, and last month I have done a 2-day course. So you know, it has taken a long time to just choose what will be the right things to tell you in 3 hours, to give you like a flavor and a big picture. So this is how I would like to proceed. First, to set up what is a regulation. Just not to, because if we start with the regulation, we don't see. Then to go a little bit into the format and the content, what is new. I will not go through all the sections because we need to be there tomorrow evening. And then what is the link with the risk management approach? Why the PSUR is really a medical document, a scientific document, and not a regulatory document, and how it is linked with all the processes in pharmacovigilance, and then some hands-on tips, a case study. What is our day-to-day routine? So, just you will have the presentation that will be on the website. That is almost finalized, just in the review. So you will have all the presentation. Just few slides are dedicated to the acronyms and abbreviations, so that when you will have the presentation, you will be able to go through that. And when you don't understand an abbreviation, just raise your hand. So, for the time being, for the periodic safety update report, the leading agency is a European agency. They have first came with a regulation and the directive in 2010, and then they have set up the good pharmacovigilance practices, a special module. But not only the special module, they have also set up a change in the ICH. ICH is the International Conference of Harmonization, Japan, EU, and US. So together they have guidelines, and after that, when they have agreed upon that, they are doing it in national laws or regional laws. So meaning that Europe has pushed ICH to change the PSUR, which is now becoming the Pbrer, which is an awful, I think, name, the Periodic Benefit Risk Evaluation Report. It's exactly the same. The new PSUR, the European PSUR, the module, the good pharmacovigilance module has been revised in order that to stick to the change that has been made after discussing with FDA and Japan, to be sure that we are speaking about the same thing. So PSUR, the new PSUR was the first in Europe, then it was a change in the ICH, and then we came back to the module of good pharmacovigilance practices to revise it, to adapt it, to harmonize everything. So we are in an harmonized world. So this harmonization was really to stick to what was done in the Pbrer. However, they said, even if we have changed the name in ICH, we want to remain PSUR. It's much more easier to pronounce, and we are used to that. Even if it's exactly the same, we want to remain with PSUR. All the time I will speak about PSUR, have in mind that it's the same. And also, they have taken some lessons from the new template, the new format, all the things that were not going so well, that were not easy understood by industry, not so easy understood also by authority, so that the people were able to learn, to be in the learning curve, both authorities and industry, to know what are the lessons that we have to take from that and do the revision accordingly. And also, you know that from July 2012, we have the application of the new regulation. However, EMA and Psur are not completely ready. So we know what we have in 2015, we know what we had behind us, and now we are in the transition, meaning that every day we have a new requirement, we have a change in the in many requirements from the regulatory, and so we are in the process, which is a little bit of a headache. So what about the other countries? US, they have set up a guidance that is working on that. So we will have certainly a final guidance. But however, they have accepted the ICH guideline. The Japan also has accepted, and it's applicable. So they will come with their own flavor. So we will have some, Italian flavor, a little bit of pizza, a little bit of noodles, everything that by the end, perhaps we will have some little changes, but we have an harmonization, same format, same contents. In fact, I think that in Israel we are really following the mainstream, which is harmonization. So I think that we don't have any choice. What is the main objective of a periodic safety update report? Every day we receive individual cases. And so we analyze this, we do the causality assessment, and we try to understand the risk factor and things like that. We see it one by one. And then we have, we are taking this 100 case or 1,000 case, the picture is suddenly completely different. So we have to analyze, aggregate data to find some red threads so that we can find a design, something that is signal, and this is why we're doing this exercise. So we have to be very comprehensive, meaning from pre-marketing to post-marketing, we want to know everything. If I am an authority and I am in the post-marketing, and if you had an hepatitis in your clinical trials, I want to know it. Of course, I want to know what is in your safety profile. If you are in the clinical trials, you have 3 or 4 clinical trials, you have a product on the market, you have a myocardial infarction, I want to know it because perhaps it will change the design of your clinical trials. I want to have a comprehensive picture of all the data, and also that you will make a real analysis. And I think that this is a real, and I know that we have a specialist from FDA in Europe. They want you to do the analysis. They don't want the raw data and they made their own analysis. They want to have a very, very deep analysis of the risk benefit. So if you want to understand what is going on, you have to compare what is going on the last year with what is going on the 10 last years. I had a PSUR, it was 20 years ago. I had a PSUR on a drug which was on the market for 20 years, 30 years, an anti-staphylococcic drug, a very powerful, very good product. And looking at the line listing, I saw that we had some problem with muscles. I was just looking that we have many cases and that nothing was written into the SMPC, so the characteristic of the product. So I went to the database, and I was lucky to have even as a French affiliate, I have fought to have the access to the central database. I went to the database and I saw that, of course, we had some cases that were related to muscle pain or something like that. So I called the QPPB and she said, oh no, we have nothing. I said, okay, I have to write something for the French appendix. I will write that we have found a signal and that we want to review all this case by an expert in rheumatology. I'm not a rheumatologist, I'm a hematologist. I cannot go deep into, but we can say in the conclusion we want to do a report and to do a deep analysis of these cases, and we will come back for the next PSUR. So we don't want anymore, and I have seen so many cases, so many PSURs that were just copy and paste of the narratives, that were just a line listing and just giving back to the authority, and the conclusion was always the same. The benefit risk of the company of the drug is very of the drug is very good, has not changed, and this was the only place, the conclusion that was never changed. We didn't look at it, and it was making me crazy. It's not possible to have this. It's just that you are not looking into your data. So they don't want listing. They don't want copy and paste of your narrative. They want your brain. Format and content. This is a table of content. You see that you have a lot of things that are really regulatory. What is the status of your product? It has been put on the market and they have received a marketing authorization, or they have been refused, or you have a withdrawal because of safety reasons. We want to know exactly what is the position of your product. How many people have been exposed from your drugs? Please don't give me tons of products, because I don't know what to do with tons of products. I want you to give me an estimation of exposure of patients, not of tons of gas that you have sold. Then you will have to speak a little bit about the clinical trials. I want a table of all the clinical trials, interventional, non-interventional, whatever is going on. I want to know the whole picture. I want also to know, did you do some pharmacokinetic, pharmacodynamic? Did you do any non-clinical? Did you have new non-clinical data? I want to know. Literature. I want to know what has been during this period. Lack of efficacy. And all this new in yellow and overview of signal. This is all the new sections that were not in the previous PSUR, and where I will focus on these new sections. So when I say that you have to give me the table of the clinical trials, it's not only the table of the clinical trials. How many people are enrolled? How many people have finished their own the treatment, the protocol? And also, I want to have what was in your safety report in the end of study report. I want to know the results, even if it's bad, and especially if it's bad. Okay? Very difficult. Why? Because people from the clinical trials, it's their baby. Don't touch to my baby. And it's always very difficult for pharmacovigilance people to come and say, please give me your results. But you are not you are the post-marketing, the pharmacovigilance. It's always very painful for them to give them a little bit of their work, you know. The case narrative. I was working first with a company. They were giving us their templates. And it was a very, very clever task to do. Copy and paste all the narrative of the serious cases and unexpected non-serious cases. Just very intelligent to do that, as you can imagine. They don't want anymore to have that. They want you have the first agranulocytosis. And in your SMPC, you have neutropenia. But suddenly you have a very an agranulocytosis. I want to have this narrative because this case is really relevant. I just want you to be a little bit clever. Now we have this section about the signals, and I know that signal detection is a really hot topic in Israel, that everybody is speaking about that. So in this section, we will have to say what is a new signal that has been identified during the period. What is a signal that has been that was ongoing in the last PSUR and that is still ongoing? What is the signal that you have closed? Closed why? Because it has been refuted, because it has not been validated, or because it became a real risk. So we want to know exactly that, and they were kind enough to give us, in the new section, to give us a table. What to put in the column, what they want to know, exactly how we have handled that. So it's all the tables that you have a lot. If you are going to the good pharmacovigilance practices, you have a lot of tables that are very useful. Then we have section 16. The section 16 is you have had signals. Okay, you have put all the things that you have done. Now, how did you assess your signal? You had an increase in your cardiac events. How did you? What did you do? What is your evaluation? And is it now a risk? And now we have the signals. Signals is before being a risk, and now we have the risk. And the risk, it's the identified risk, the potential risk, the missing information coming from risk management plan. We want to know if you have a new identified risk coming from the signals. If you have a potential risk which became identified risk, we want to know about that. This is coming from your risk management plan, and especially from the section safety specification. We will go back to that. So you have to, everybody could make a mistake in his judgment. What we have to do is to put all our efforts. We can say, like Vioxx, we can say we have Vioxx in one side and naproxen in the other side. In Vioxx, in the pivotal clinical trial, we had two times more adverse reaction in cardiac events. We have two more times cardiac events in Vioxx than in naproxen. And the result of the analysis was naproxen is protecting the heart. So we don't have 2 times more in Vioxx, we have 2 times less. This was the hypothesis. And it was only after it was on the market that they have made a long study that they were able to see that it was 2 times more than placebo. So they have withdrawn the product. Just to tell you that you can, I think that if we have to learn from all this story, because pharmacovigilance is built from that. What can we learn from that? First of all, that people from pharmacovigilance must be involved in the clinical development to say, hey, we have made an hypothesis. To confirm this hypothesis, we have to make a different endpoint or different follow-up. Everybody says that if Vioxx would have target to its... Yes?
תופעת לוואי.
מאוד לוואי של גשם.
תמשיכו, קריה.
תדעי, אבל לא תקוי ולא.
מי מסדר מדי סיגנל?
So, just when you are making your analysis, you can say this or this, I'm going this way, this way, this way. Just put all your reasons. Why are you doing that? What is your medical significance of your thinking? What is the rationale of your attitude? This is the most important. That somebody could come and say, no, we don't agree with you. Okay, but we could have made a mistake, but we have made a thorough analysis, and of course it's not mathematics. So you will have to set up to use your risk table that was in the risk management plan. In cumulative, you have the table as it was before the period, and then you will have to think: do we have any update to do to this risk table? Because this risk table is something which is always on my mind when I'm receiving one case, when I'm receiving 100 cases, and when I'm analyzing 1,000 cases. I have to have the same approach Is it an identified risk? Is it a potential risk? Is it a missing information? This is the way we have to think about. And is it serious? Is it as serious as I was thinking? Is it the same severity, the same outcome? It's not the same to have a neutropenia and to have an agranulocytosis. And then in this section, you have also to say, okay, we have in our risk management plan, let's say we have a risk management plan, we say that we have cardiac events. So before giving my drug, you have to go to a cardiologist and have a normal ECG. Okay, so what is the action that I have taken to be sure that the patient has normal ECG, or what are the minimization action? So I have to measure that these actions are really effective, that it's not for just to be nice for the authority and to show that you really are doing something. We have to prevent and to minimize the risk for the patient. And the patient, it's you, it's me, it's your children, it's your relatives. So now the PSUR is a place where you are following all the risk minimization action. At the beginning, it was not clear if we will have to update the RMP, the risk management plan, or if it will be in the PSUR. But now it's very clear that the PSUR is like your tool to review also the effectiveness of your action. And if you find that the risks are completely different from the beginning of the period, so we change the RMP. Then we have this new section that was at the beginning very frightening for pharmacovigilance people. While we are always speaking about risk, now we have to think about the benefits. How can we do that? We can, first of all, we have to speak about the basis. What is in your marketing authorization? What was the supposed efficacy benefit of your product? Then, did we have any new trials on special population, on children, or a registry for pregnant women for special population? Do we have new input data that will tell us a little bit more about benefits? And we have to say, to characterize. It's not to say we have to say exactly how much it is benefit. We can say we think that for the people over 65 years old, the risk is higher, so perhaps we have to put some warning or something like that. So you have to think about, or these people are higher risk and lower benefit. So you have to follow that. And then you have to combine the benefit and the risk. Say what is the benefit risk of my product, and this is very tough and difficult. So and it's not something that we used to do for years and years in pharmacovigilance. It's not our routine expertise. So we have to do that only for the key risk and the key benefit, not the headaches, the little things that are not really relevant. And we have also to say not only that this is what we think about the benefit risk, but also how weak or how robust, how strong is our evidence. Is it only gut feeling? Is it on raw data from new clinical trials? It's from where, how much it's important. And not only that, we have to look not only to our product, but what is the other product of the class? Anti-COX-2. We have the problem with vials. What about the anti-COX-2? What with the non-steroid anti-inflammatory drugs? We have to know that my product has not such nephrotoxicity, but all the products of the same class have nephrotoxicity, so I have to put that as a potential risk. Now, when I put my product on the market, we were there for the benefit risk when we saw all the disease management and the alternative therapeutics. Meantime, a new revolutionary care, could be a surgery, could be a new drug, has a benefit risk which is here. So I was here and everybody was here, and now I'm here and there is that here. I think that we have to look at the whole picture and to say what are the alternative therapeutics. Just an example about the medical termination of pregnancy. The benefit risk is not only for one product, it's also for according to the region. When you see the benefit risk in Europe, in a developed country, what is the difference between the medical termination of pregnancy and the surgery? You can have this kind of comparison. If it's in India, in Africa, in developing countries, what is the alternative therapeutic? It's just, how to say, when you are doing that, you know, when you're just doing a switch. It's the teaching, you know? This is the alternative therapeutic. So the risks that we are able to accept in some regions where the alternative is absolutely terrible and young women are dying from that, are not the same that the one we are having in the developed countries. So you have to think about that also. Then you have conclusion and actions, and of course it's never written beforehand. You have to say, do I have to change my safety information, the SMPC, the patient leaflet? Do I have to update my risk management plan? Do I have to have new actions? Let's say I have to review all the cardiac events during this period because I think that there is something, and in the time that is it's allotted for me for this PSUR, I cannot review 200 cases of cardiac events at the same time that I'm writing the PSUR. So I say in my at the end of my conclusion, we have seen a signal with cardiac events. It will be analyzed by experts in cardiology, and we will do a safety report either in the next PSUR or perhaps before. What kind of conclusion and action can we have? We can make variation. We can have communication to healthcare professionals. We can have educational material. We can have a pictogram. And you know that now in Europe we have the black triangle, which is the inverted black triangle on the new product or on the product which have an additional monitoring. That we want to look at it and want people to tell us what is going on. Then you have all the appendices with all the tables that you have to fill in. I will not go through everything, but don't forget also the post-authorization, safety and efficacy studies. And so you have all in the GVP, the good pharmacovigilance practices, you have all this information which is very detailed and very well structured, by the way. We have, which is specific to EU, some specific requirements, like if we want to change the SMPC, we have to propose immediately this SMPC. Just for your knowledge, I think that I was once giving a presentation with a lawyer who was also a pharmacist, and she told that every time that a patient is suing a company is when it's not written into the SMPC. And especially if it was written in the PSUR and the company has not made very actively the change in the SMPC, you're dead. You can go to the judge and you know that you will lose your trial. So now it's no more possible because you cannot have 6 months, 6 years before you change what you have said in the PSUR, because in the PSUR, not only you said, I have to change that, to say warnings, don't give it to people having a renal insufficiency, you have to say Okay, this is the SMPCs that I'm proposing. And of course, we have something also which is very important in the EU, and that is really focused on that. It's not only the normal use of the product according to the indication. It's the off-label use, it's the misuse, it's the medication errors, it's overdose. I want to know everything, because if a child has taken all the bottle of antibiotic syrup, I want to know what has happened. Even if nothing has happened, I want to know. And if people are taking twice as a dose, I want to know what is it, even if there is no reaction. And if the infusion they are taking in intravenous instead of subcutaneous, I want to know what is the reaction. So the idea is really to have a very scientific approach. Sometimes, and I know that we have here a lot of regulatory people, and it's not against regulatory people, of course. It was very focused on the fact that it's not. We don't want a regulatory document that you send the line listing and it's just according to by the book. We want a medical scientific evaluation in depth, and not meaning that it's made by a physician, but it's a scientific evaluation and not a regulatory document. And I think that one of the most important change is the fact that to know if you have something new, you have to compare with the old. So you have to have all your cumulative data to understand what is different. And and the details that you have to go through is according to the medical significance. Now, in Europe, we have set up a EU RD list with making it's a EU reference date with a lot of active substance. With the EU reference date, the next data log point, DLP, it's data log point. The frequency of submission, and we were very surprised to see for some of them it will be within 10 years. 20 years. So what will be your next time to submit a PSUR? And it has came into force in April 2013. And when your product is not in the list, either you are going to your usual calendar, or if it's a generic and it's not in the list, you can be very quiet. You are not writing. You are not writing PSUR.
So
For your
sorry.
this maybe someone didn't hear it.
But I will ask you, if you're not writing a PSUR, first of all, there are some risk management plan. Yeah, there are some risk management plans that now are mandatory for all products, including the generics. But you have in the risk management plan for generics, it's a light RMP. You have some sections which are not mandatory because it's not relevant. So I think that perhaps it could be done the same for the PSUR. However, the question is, when you don't do a PSUR, you never take this. How are you doing your signal detection? So we have to find a right balance to do something which is light. And why the European authority don't want to have this? Because they don't want to have 10 times the same literature listing of the same product, because it's too much time consuming and it's not no added value. So I think that we have to find a right balance between a huge PSUR and with a PSUR that is still helping you to do your signal detection. So these are the timeline, 70 calendar days and 90 calendar days. I can tell you it's not enough. If you want to write, and especially for the first one when you're starting with your cumulative data, very tight very short timeline. What is nice now? It's before we were writing PSUR, and we didn't even know if somebody was reading them. And I can tell you in France, and I'm not speaking about any other authorities. And we had a big scandal two or 3 years ago with Mediator. I don't know if you have heard about this. However, we had a report saying that they have found a bundle of PSUR which has never been read, and of course, so the quality of writing was not good, and the quality of reading was not good. Okay, so they were picking the risky products, and they had no hands to do all the products. We can understand. So it's not that I want to put a hammer on their head. It's just that now it's not possible, because we are sending everything to the PRAC, Pharmacovigilance and Risk Assessment Committee of the European Agency, and they have to send you a report within 60 days. So you have an assessment report. You have sometimes to answer, which is nice and new, and they will tell you what is the action that they are asking you to do. And you can answer. You have 30 days, I think, to answer, and then it will come back to the PRAC, and the PRAC will decide, and they will send it to the CHMP, and the CHMP, they said in the regulation, they have to be really very good reasons not to be okay with what the PRAC has said. And anyway, if you don't agree with what the PRAC has said, just sit down together and come back with a consensus. Meaning that after that you have one assessment report, one required actions, one set of required actions that will have to be applied the same way everywhere in Europe. And it's no more possible to have, like Mediator, to have a product on the French market which has had a refusal for the marketing authorization in Belgium, which has had also withdrawal in Italy and in Spain, and still 10 years after it's still on the French market. It's no more possible.
But only for the centralized product, no?
This is in the interim period. We still have the interim period where we have the reference state that we for the national procedure, and but the goal is within 1 or 2 years to have everything in the PRAC.
Centralized?
Yes, everything centralized, and will be all in the same repository with the PSUR, with the DSUR, with the RMP. Transparency is indeed something so new for us. I remember the time when speaking about our pharmacovigilance data in the industry was like Fort Knox. Why? The competitor will know that we have 100 cases of myocardial infarction, and so you know, it's just on the website of the email. You have the recommendation and a summary of the assessment report, which, by the way, it's a very good tool for you as a signal detection, because you have the assessment of the 27 countries in Europe and the CHMP assessment and the European Commission. So they have done a lot of work for all of us. You just have to go into the email website.
Yes, and what to look for?
Your product.
Yeah.
But we can find the PSUR.
Not the PSUR. A summary of the assessment report and the recommendation.
Maybe we can send the link to this database. I think that's what they're asking.
Email.
Okay.
Just go to email.
Email, then search what?
You search assessment. It's in the
Safety.
PRAC. In the PRAC meetings, you have all the
PRAC meetings.
Yes.
Okay.
And of course, there is nothing that you can do without quality. So you have the quality assurance to do about the submission timeline, the quality of your data. Because if you are, it's like a cake. If you're putting bad things in the cake will be bad. So if you are putting bad cases and which are not consistent, which have a completely inconsistent coding, we have different way of saying the same thing, you will have a bad PSUR. So you have to clean your data. You have to set up data convention and data coding convention so that you have clean data. And if you don't have a risk management plan, what do? You sit down and you write a safety specification. You write your risk table, which is an exercise that perhaps you are not used to, but it's a very good exercise, I can tell you. Which is exactly, you have like something which is be your dashboard, that will follow the safety profile of your product. And then in the GVP, we have all the time, we have the quality, we have the process, we have the quality, we have the transparency, and we have the EU PPV responsibility. So you don't do that, you go to jail. And you have to look at all the process of the submission, quality of data, the SOP, everything. You have to know, of course, what the PRAC assessment report has asked you to do, and things like that. Just as I told you, have clean data. It's very important, because sometimes we have spent half of the time to clean the data and not to write the PSUR. And when you have a very short time, it's very difficult to do that. Just like an idea, write a template of your narrative so that you are sure, and of your company comments, you are sure that when you will take back your 200 cases and go back to that, you will be able to remember, to see what was the assessment of the case. This case was serious and expected, but the patient has risk factor which was that and that and that, which could explain that the risk was increased for him, and just analyze medical and scientific analysis for each case. Because when you have to do that for all cases, 2 years after or 3 years after, it's very tough. Okay, this is what I was saying. And now what they are asking is that the PSUR must be submitted according to one template, to one format, which is the ECTD. And you have a wonderful webinar on this website so that you can understand everything about ECTD. Now, risk management approach. In fact, the risk management approach is something that I like very much for a long time, but it's also, I think that is something which is exactly the change of perspective of how do you see pharmacovigilance. It's not only writing a risk management plan, it's just thinking another way, and thinking action, especially. So before that, we were sitting down, collecting the cases, analyzing them, and then we were, if we have a crisis, we were reactive and taking action and things like that. What is the idea of this new concept is that we have to have a proactive approach that will be not only for pieces of the life cycle of the product, but the whole life cycle of the product. It's an integrative organization, and it's a very part of the submission file. What it is to have a proactive approach. To say, we have to assess the risk. What is the identified risk? Okay, I'm at the beginning of the development of my product, and I know that it's an anticoagulant. I know that the identified risk is the bleeding. Okay, And I know that all the products of the same class has anaphylaxis. I never saw any anaphylaxis with my product, but it's a potential risk because it's the same class of products. Missing information. First time that we saw that, how can we say about something that we don't know? Yes, we don't know about renal insufficiency, patient with renal insufficiency. We don't know about the children. We don't know about the pregnant woman. We are able to put everything. And then, now that we know what are the risks, what action do we take to prevent or to minimize this risk? I have a product that is a monoclonal antibody against the C9 of complement. This C9 of complement is the first of its class. This C9 of complement, how can I say what is the risk because it's the first of this class? Okay, I've looked at what is the people who have a congenital deficiency in C9 of complement. They have meningitis. They have they are very sensitive to pneumococcus and meningococcus and to herpes. So what I will do as an proactive action, I will ask. I will not give to any patient a product because it's an orphan disease if they have not had a vaccination against meningitis. And they will have a safety capping. If I have a headache, if I have a high temperature, if I have a vomiting, I'm going immediately to the hospital because it could be a meningitis. And I'm telling to the physician that I'm taking this drug, which is on. This is the hotline that you can free hotline that you can call. So. And it's a real case, what I'm telling you. So this is one of the actions to prevent the risk, and also you want to know more about the children. You have to do some registry about pregnant women. You have to do a registry or a study with children. So what are you doing to know a little bit more? And so you are in a position that you are not waiting. You are demonstrating the safety of your product, and not today or yesterday, every day. Because we have the keyword with the preventability. How many cases could be prevented according to you? Just send a number. Very shy, everybody? 20%? 30%? How many cases could be prevented? Anaphylaxis you cannot prevent. Okay? How many cases adverse drug reaction could be prevented if we took the good actions?
50%. 50
to 60%. Meaning that this is our job to decrease this rate. Does it mean that it's all along the product safety? When you have your non-clinical data and you know that you have the liver of your rats who are completely destroyed, you know that you could have some hepatotoxicity. Yes? Okay. So you know already something. You sit down at that time with what you know and you write your safety specification. What is my identified risk, potential risk, missing information? And of course, with the data, it's evolving like a picture of the risk profile of your profile of your product. And of course, when you are in the post-marketing and you are coming from 5,000 patients to 5 million patients, you have even much more data and much more things that you didn't know before. So it's something which is always all the time. When you don't have a risk management plan, you have to sit down and to do this exercise. What are the safety risks, the risk table of my product? Integrative approach. First time that I've seen that, I saw it was in 2000. This slide I have written it in 2004 or 3, something like that. It was before that it was mandatory. And I thought to myself, when it became mandatory in 2005, I said, perhaps I have to take out top management. It's not a decision from the top management. Yes, it's still a decision of the top management to give you all the resources to do your work. And pharmacovigilance must be involved in the beginning of the development. And regulatory and R&D must be involved in post-marketing for the post-safety and efficacy studies. And of course, marketing and sales. They will be the one to communicate on your product. You have to tell them, you have to train the doctor that they have to ask the vaccination against meningitis and to explain. And you know, this is the time that I'm preferring in my, in the time that when I'm writing a risk management plan, we sit down with the marketing and they come and we are going to work with pharmacovigilance, it's awful. And then we start and then they understand that if we have a better safety, we can even sell better the product. But I think that the most enjoyable time is at the end of the day when they say, your risk management plan is my marketing plan. Wow. And they have a lot of imagination. You know, we know what are the messages, but they know how to communicate. They know how to say it. And if we are doing the control, the right control, so that they are not saying something else, it's a really a very time that I enjoy very much. Very creative. And of course, we need regulatory, we need IT, we need QA/QC, meaning that we need. It's the problem. It's a project that where we need to have all these people together. And if you remember that I told you that PSUR is like a mini RMP, this is exactly what you must have in mind, not only for writing RMP, but for writing a PSUR and for reading one single case. So, in very short, what is a risk management plan? You say, what is my risk table? How I have organized my pharmacovigilance system to follow this and to have a good surveillance of the benefit risk. And how do I minimize the risk? So at the beginning, in November 2005, it was the risk management plan was mandatory for the new products, for the high-risk product, monoclonal antibodies, biotech, advanced therapy, medicinal products, immunomodulation, etc. And if you have a problem with an old product on the market, suddenly we want to have our risk management plan. Now, it's something that we want to have for all products. We want for all products. First of all, we want to know if you understand what is, even if it's a generic, which is in the market for 50 years. I want to know if you understand what are the risks. If you have made you're not just selling the product. And I want to know if you have organized a pharmacovigilance. And I remember the time where a lot of generic companies were thinking that they don't even need a pharmacovigilance system, which is, I think, it's never more in the head of these companies. But now, if you write RMP for a new generic, meaning a new on the market, you have to write a risk management plan. Of course, you will not have all the sections to write. It will be a very light RMP, and you have a very nice table with all the sections that can be taken off if you are using a herbal product or well-established use, etc. So your pharmacovigilance plan, you describe your system, you say you have a EUQPPV, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Do I need some other studies? Do I need some more studies? How do I organize myself? And then you write your safety specification. So just remember that you are in the PSUR, you are not in the RMP, but if we don't have an RMP, we have to do this exercise. And to use the clinical and the non-clinical data. And this is, I think, the most important table. This is the one that you must have all the time for each risk. Major code for your risk, because this will be the code that your drug vigilance and yourself will use to do your signal detection. You will have to say what is the seriousness and what is the outcomes. People are dying from that, or they just have a headache for 2 days. What is the nature of the risk? People have people over 60, female patients over 65 years old have osteoporosis increased with this product. So there is a risk of if they are falling, if for old elderly patients, if they are falling, the impact will be that it could have some fracture. And we know very well that it's high morbid mortality for elderly people, the fall and the broken legs and broken hips. What is the frequency? Is it 1 for 1 million, or 1 for 100, or 1 for 100 patients? What is if I'm not taking the drug, what is my risk of doing a myocardial infarction if I'm 65? So what is the difference between the usual patients not taking the drug and my patients taking the drug? Do I have any risk factor? Yes, female with osteoporosis, they are at higher risk of problems. What is the mechanism? I want to understand what is going on. It's not I just see that. What is the biological mechanism? How do you explain that? It's this monoclonal antibody is going against the C9 of complement, which is protecting against the meningococcus and pneumococcus. So my identified risk is a meningitis, and this is the mechanism. How can I prevent it? Asking for vaccination. What is the public health impact? And where do I take this idea? Is it from my gut feeling, or is it from data, from literature, from consensus, for scientific association? And of course, I talked about that. And then you will have to say, this is the action that I want to take. I want to have all the people taking thalidomide for lupus. I want to have a negative pregnancy test. So what are my metrics? I want to have 100% of the women treated with thalidomide with a negative test. So I can play on the packaging to have just 1 month, and they will come again to have a prescription, and they come in with a negative test. Okay. And so you have to set the criteria, and this will be the way you will follow the risk minimization activity.
We'll make a 20 minutes break. נעשה הפסקה של 20 דקות, יש כיבוד בחוץ.